Morning. Again, I'd just like to thank Alan and Suzanne from CITA for inviting us to talk here today. I've done a similar talk in Waterford back in March. I suppose there was a couple of questions asked on that day in relation to BIM and our use of BIM. And unfortunately, at that point in time, we had spent a lot of money on design and build projects and using BIM, but we'd no live projects on site. But today, I'll be able to cover that a bit better. Glad to say that we have secured a couple of jobs on site now with the use of BIM. So I'll just go through what I'm going to cover this morning. Is who Clancy's are, why we choose the BIM route, or BIM collaboration with Water Institute Technology, planning from a BIM point of view on site logistics, visualization, construction coordination, safety, construction simulations, again on site and mobile technology, checking material quantifications, construction detailing, prefabrication, and the team that talked today is somewhat a bit on facilities management. We'll cover that a bit again today, which we didn't the last day, and where we are now with facilities management and where we've been moving along and trying to develop that. It's kind of really part of our next step on it also. Field notes, tablets, iPads, full clash detection, BIM for facilities management, and then the conclusion. So Clancy Construction was established in the 1940s by John Clancy. He was originally a local house builder in the Tipperary area. His brothers or his sons, should I say, took over in the 1980s and developed it from there into what it is today. We're involved in both the public and private sectors. We consider ourselves amongst the top 15 main contractors in the country. Whether we're supposed to be there or not, I'm not quite sure, but we definitely are competing in that market. We aim for collaboration and a partnership approach on all our projects, and that is really the cornerstone of what we do and what we believe in, and BIM brings a lot to the party in relation to that. We're involved in residential, commercial, industrial, medical, education and leisure projects. We have a lot of experience in traditional and design and build projects. We're headquarters in Thurles, we mentioned there. It's Drangan, Thurles, and Drangan is a village between Clonmel and Thurles, a small village. And Billy Clancy, who was a past MD of Clancy, he often said we were in the sticks. So it is, people that have visited our office, it is in the middle of nowhere, but that's where we are. We use Thurles here because everyone knows where Thurles is. But it's about 17 miles from Thurles, that's where we're based. And we also have offices in Dublin, and we actually also opened an office in Limerick this year. We have current projects in Dublin, Wexford, Limerick, Waterford, Cork and Tipperary. And we also have work now also in Laois and Galway. We're continuing to grow in the face of a downturn by increasing our turnover last year by, that figure is wrong, by 50%. And we would hope to also increase that again this year by in the region of 20%. And we're continuing to innovate and invest in people and technology. And that can be seen from what we are doing here today. And why we choose BIM Road, well, we are now coming out of what had been a very difficult 6 or 7 years in recession. And when we were looking at that, we were saying, we needed to come up with a competitive advantage in relation to tendering for work and winning work. And we looked at BIM. To be honest with you, I'm no expert on BIM. I'm still not an expert on BIM, but we have people around us that are. So when it does come to questions times, if I'm not able to answer the questions, I might revert them to other people in the room, maybe ArtDoc or Aidan Clancy and a few others. Our BIM manager actually isn't here today. But I am no expert in it. But we did look at BIM. I am aware of what BIM could do and what the potential is. So looking for a competitive advantage point of view, BIM was certainly one thing that we considered back in actual fact, 2010. So also the fact that BIM has been introduced in the UK for contracts above 5 million in 2016, it's inevitable that the Irish government are going to follow suit. And it's only in the last 12 to 18 months that we have noticed that the Irish government are now starting to pay attention to BIM. And in time, I think that the Irish government will follow the UK model, and they will be looking for mandatory use of BIM on projects over a certain value in time. I would suggest probably 2020. BIM gives you, again, go back to competitive advantage, checking tender bills and quantities. And from academic research, we know that 80% reduction in time to generate a cost estimate, cost estimate accuracy up to 3%, up to 40% elimination of variations, which is really significant. Savings up to 10% of the contract value through clash detection, and up to 7% reduction in project time. And all those factors are really, really important, and really one of the key reasons we got involved in BIM. It identifies conflicts, facilitates better communication between all the stakeholders involved in the project, less waste, better coordination, and visualization and better construction execution. And I'll cover some of that as we go along. BIM in Ireland, Forfast issued a report on the construction industry last year, and up to the construction sector up to 2015, and it identifies BIM to help bring competitiveness, innovation, off-site construction, lean construction, and green construction. Following on from that, the government have really taken the construction industry seriously to try and boost the economy and employment in the industry. And they produced, sorry, this actually isn't the correct, well, it's near enough the correct slide, but there was some changes to this, but the next slide that isn't here, but anyway, Construction 2020 was published in May of this year. And in Construction 2020, there's 75 actions that the government have outlined in relation to boosting employment to get it back to zero employment by 2020. And it focuses on the construction industry. But in Construction 2020, there's 3 elements that are relevant to BIM. And from memory now, there's 68, 69, and 71. And they're in relation to the government supports to the implementation of BIM within the construction industry. And I think Robin mentioned at the very beginning, you know, who are the leaders in relation to BIM? And some might say it's design teams. In actual fact, it isn't. And that question was asked in Waterford back in March. Who's the leaders? It actually isn't, it's the contractors. And the reason for that is that contractors probably have most to gain. But also, they see the benefit in it. From design teams, and Robin mentioned it as well, smaller design teams, smaller practice is a huge cost. And the implementation of it is a barrier to implementation. But also the contractors. I've spoken to them contractors over the last 6 to 7 months. And the same question has been raised, and raised with government, in that there needs to be support for BIM. But 2020 actually highlights that on those items 68, 69, and 71. 71 is actually collaboration with third-level institutions and the construction industry in relation to innovation and innovation vouchers and all that kind of stuff. And that's actually how we got involved in this originally with WIT. But going back to the point is that it's all about the industry and getting support from government. Construction 2020 has identified that as well. And I do understand that Enterprise Ireland shortly are about to announce a programme in relation to the implementation of BIM and supports for companies that want to introduce BIM. The only downside to that from my point of view, or from a contractor's point of view, or maybe a lot of people in the room, if you're not internationalising, so if you're not exporting your services abroad, this current programme is not being supported by Enterprise Ireland. So I would hope going forward that's going to be looked at again for the domestic market. But I think that programme is going to be launched shortly enough. On to the BIM collaboration with WIT. We worked on WIT in a live design and build project in Clonmel in County Tipperary called Ballingran. It was a design and build project, and it's a joint venture between LIT and South Tipperary County Council for an innovation hub. It was an unusual tender, to be honest. So we were given a brief, believe it or not, public tender. We were given a brief and we were given a value. And you had to design a building from a green field to meet that brief and that value. And we done that. Unfortunately, at the time, which was back sometime in 2011, we appointed our design team. And even back then, before we got involved with WIT, I had asked our design team at the time, would they design it in BIM? And I, not knowing a lot about BIM at the time, they weren't in a position to do that. So we did design it under 2D. We won the project, luckily enough. But once we won it, then you had the design stage and the planning stage to go through before it could go to site. But within that period, we had met up, well, we were involved in WIT for quite some time, but we happened to be down in WIT and talking to Brian Graham, who was head of the construction management course down at the BSc, in construction management engineering. And we got into a discussion about BIM. And we spoke to Brian about it, and he was interested in doing something that I believe wasn't done before in any other college in Ireland, which was where the college would have their students, both the architectural and the construction management students and engineering students, working on our 2D model, converting it to 3D, at the same time when we were designing under 2D. When we started that process. And what we looked at was, in that first part of that collaboration, we looked at alternative construction methods, 4D in BIM, which is the Martin, I think, or Martin showed it, I think, or Martin showed it earlier, 4D, which is simulation, and clash detection, and 5D BIM, which was the quantities and how they interacted with the BIM model. What they done was they produced a presentation to us in April of 2012 on the 3D model from the Ballingran project, where we had designed, and I think we were just about to go to planning, in 2D. And it was very impressive. And we were very impressed with what they produced. They told us the benefits to the company, to an implementation plan, etc., etc. Out of that, we went away, we thought about it, whether we get involved in doing it or not. They gave us, in fairness to WIT, costs associated with implementation, etc., was included. We did make a decision to move on and do it. And interestingly enough, we took on one of their students, Brian Cass, who is now our BIM manager. So to us, it was a good move. He was one of the presentation guys on the day. He really knew what he was doing. He was actually a qualified engineer. He went back and done and he worked on site for a number of years. He then went back and done a degree in construction management engineering. And he's now our BIM manager, working out really, really well. The college, even at the time, told us that in reality, the students actually become more efficient at the use of BIM than the lecturers themselves. The lecturers steer them in a certain direction and then let them off. And as we all know, if you have a problem with your phone at home or your iPad at home, you give it to the kids 8 or 9 years of age and they can fix it for you or get it up and running. It's a bit like the students in schools as well. They actually get very efficient with the models and they can Google this and Google that and get these things working for them. So Brian Cass is our BI manager and a very, very good job. And again, this is part of what we now do, 3D logistic plans. This is a current project. It's on site in UCC in Cork. Interestingly enough, on this project was designed in 2D. We tendered it in 2D and won it. But we have converted the 2D model into 3D ourselves. And we now are using that model to build a building, along with the design team. We're also using the model. And we have it in a cloud, where it's collaborative and working out very well. But from a 3D geologistics plan point of view, you can see the benefits of what you can actually do. It's construction analysis and planning. You've got existing conditions, mobilization, transport routes, excavation, foundations, steel erection, exterior envelopes, MEP, interior finishes, and site improvements. So again, these models can be given to design teams and the client prior to construction, or even at tender stage if requested. And it's very impressive, and it's well thought out and well laid out, and shows that the thing has been well thought out by the contractor. Again, the images on the left aren't of UCC. They're just, again, showing what can be done with the model in relation to different stages of construction. In this event, in this case, it's actually got to do with temporary works, and the steel is going in for temporary works, and it shows the sequencing of how it's actually done. And the client is probably not very well shown on the screen there. But that's what that's about. Formwork, again, from a contractor's point of view, I just want to slip a slide down. Yeah, some slides not coming up here, but on the formwork one, what it is this is the formwork of a stairwell, stair shaft, and it's got 2 walls. And what it actually does is it shows you every piece of equipment you need to it's RC walls to construct the RC walls. So you know how many bolts you need, how many anchors you need, how many shuttering pans you need, or whatever else you want. It's all in the model. And the reason why that's so efficient to a contractor is he has the spreadsheet, he knows exactly what he wants, that's what he orders, and that's what he gets. It comes to site, it's efficient, it's done. You're not saying, oh God, we don't have enough of X, Y, and Z, we have to reorder them, or send somebody off in a van to get them, and waste time, etc., etc. So that's the efficiency of that. Schedule links with models and updates in the model. So if there's any change at all, this is a scaffolding, and again, the image isn't coming up, but we have produced a family ourselves for scaffolding around the building, again, developed by Brian Cass. So you've got the building, and we draw the scaffolding around the perimeter of the building. And from that, you get a schedule of every piece of scaffolding that's needed for that. You order it from head office, it comes in one lorry, and it arrives, and you know how much you need. And then there's no wasting any more time on costs for transport over and back if you haven't got enough. Sometimes the guys will bring back up to the head office, the plant guys, and say, I'm short 200 planks. Oh, fine, we'll get them down to tomorrow. Now you have the cost. key shot blanks, etc., etc. So again, the model, we built a family, we put the scaffolding up around it, and from a site logistics point of view, it's cost us on saving and time. So again, this is it here. It's better overall site planning, efficient overall company transport planning, crane positioning, crane size foundation, precast delivery, site layout, emergency planning, and concrete pumping and pouring. And maybe just Suzanne, I'd say what's going on here. This presentation is in PDF, I'd say, is it? Yeah. It's the PowerPoint one, and it has the one with the little images jumping in and out. But anyway. Just to go back again on the benefit of listed planning, it's temporary works planning, a more organised, cleaner site, no unwanted materials on site. It ensures safety. It can envisage safety issues before they happen on site. More efficient use of employees' time, visualisation aid of employees working on site, and overall savings in time and money. Like the visualisation aid of employees working on site, like the model is fantastic for site managers to see the building in 3D, and it gives them a lot more understanding of how the building is being constructed and the issues that might arise. There's the safety issue. Again, you're an image on the right in relation to a concrete beam, and then you can look at the safety issues in relation to handrails, etc., for the construction of that beam. This, again, is a 3D visualization, and this has got to do with a project that we have won, that I mentioned at the beginning. The last time I done this talk, we hadn't won very much, but this is the bus parking facility in Grange Gorman, which is a design and build project. We won that, and it's currently on site, I think, Chris, yeah? It's just about to be anyway. So again, this is just part of the images for that. Construction details, again, there's an image missing here, but what this is this would show, if the image was there, is a first floor of a building. And what it is, it's this spreadsheet actually is the mesh on that floor. And what the model will be able to do is tell you how much mesh you need for the floor slab, what the overlaps are, and what each size of each sheet of mesh is. So we send that to our suppliers, and we say, and I know the figures without having to look, but it's 88 sheets of mesh. You get each sheet numbered. They arrive on site on the back of a truck. There's no need for cutting. There'll be no waste. It comes as you want. You place them a bit like precast units. You place them in sequence on the floor slab. So you've cut out a lot of waste, and this is the issue. And that's what BIM can do, and that's what it brings to a contractor. 4D simulation, again, mentioned by Martin. We use a programming software called Asta Power Project. And again, we use this an awful lot now. So we can tie our construction program in with the 4D simulation. And again, the site managers and the site team can actually look at it and get a better understanding of how the project is going to be constructed and actually change it if required. Again, site mobile technology. Again, we have invested in robotic total stations. Again, these are very expensive, but they are linked to the model, and they can actually save us time and money, and they actually do. We've had them now for quite some time and find them very efficient. Again, the site mobile technology, all our site managers are issued with laptops, iPhones, and iPads. We use a modified Dropbox system, and all our information is available to those that need it, regardless of location. And that can actually be design teams, not just talking about our own staff. It allows for control of access by external stakeholders. Again, I just mentioned that with UCC, we're currently doing that. And our filing structure is aligned to BS Pass 1192, which is a standard in relation to BIM. And we use BIM 360 Glue, which is an app on iPad, and they're free. And Naviswork Freedom is also free, to give our site staff the power of BIM. And this allows them for marks up and better collaboration. And this we're now actually doing on site on, I think, 2 to 3 projects. Again, here's the image of the site mobile technology. You've got your phone, your iPads, Dropbox, and there's an image over there, the middle picture on the right-hand side, which is an app. And this can be, the guys with the iPad or the iPhone, and you see this, a door, I think it is, if that's what it is circled in red, or it's clouded in red, and there's a comment on it. So our guys put the model on the iPad, can freeze an image and take a picture of it on the iPad, cloud it, and put a comment in, and send it to the design team and say, there's an issue here, we need to resolve it, or have a look at it. And that can be all done in seconds, on-site, walking around. Very, very efficient. We've used it in UCC. As I said, we've turned that model from 2D into 3D. We've found some issues, and we're now working with the design team to resolve some of those issues. None of them hugely significant, but they're issues, and they need to be resolved. Very, very efficient, and it's really, really going back to why we are implementing BIM and why we do believe it is working and working really, really well. It does give you an advantage. It's collaborative, solves issues before they happen. The UCC job is only being piled at the moment, and we're resolving issues at roof level. Checking material quantifications, we spoke about this at quite at length in Waterford a few months ago. But again, from a contractor's point of view, at tender stage, you can, again, produce the model if there isn't one, check that against a bill of quantities if there is a bill of quantities, and see are the quantities right. And it can give you a competitive advantage. Steel fabrication, again, that's around for quite some time with StruCAD, etc. But again, it's in the model, and we use contractors now, structural steel contractors that have BIM, and we insist on that. Going on to facilities management, I think Martin or somebody had an image up earlier. We, again, are working quite hard on this side of it. This is the area where we do see an advantage and where we are, again, promoting BIM and facilities management to our clients. And they're saying, what can we offer you? And we want to get away from this type of thing. And again, we're working with a company by the name of Moore DFM. And this is something that isn't something that's going to happen in the future. We're currently doing this. And we have presented this to a number of clients, and again, UCC, and in actual fact, Eden mentioned Topaz. We're currently, I'm delighted to say, building 2 Topaz service stations, one in Ballacalla and one in Clonshock, currently on site. And we met with Topaz, and we spoke to them about facilities management and what we can offer. The buildings weren't designed under BIM. I think I'm right in saying that, Chris? Yeah, they weren't designed under BIM. But we are converting them into BIM. But we actually are looking with Topaz in relation to the facilities management side of it and what we can do. And we're doing presentations to them presently, I think, or we've done one. But going back to Moore DFM and where we currently are, we've come up with a system in relation to using QR codes, and you can use your smartphone device to access the information. Now again, I know the text up here is poor. We'll go back to Eden's presentation. You've got the facility management guys. They can now walk into a plant room and there'll be a QR code on an AHU, and with his smartphone, he scans the QR code, and all the information in relation to that piece of plant or equipment will come up on his screen, telling him who the producer is, or the manufacturer is, when it was serviced, when it was installed, when it next needs to be serviced, or any other. There's lots and lots of information there. And that's currently a service that we are providing to our clients, and we are offering it to our clients. It's something we are developing with Moore DFM, and we're taking it to the next stage. More BIM on site, increased use of iPads and tablets. We are evolve our in-house technical BIM team. We increase our training and BIM exposure, and I think ArtDoc have done a number of training programs for us. We update our BIM execution plan as our experience increases, and I must say, we're learning every day with BIM, and it is just an evolving process. So we need to keep updating where we're going with it. We're engaged in full clash detection capabilities, linking bills of quantities to a database to BIM, linking QA records, and I might just touch on that. I mean, a lot of people in the room here all know about BCAR. Big issue for a lot of us. I wouldn't say a problem, but it's an issue. But again, BIM can feed into that. We are looking at that currently. We're looking at it with more DFM in relation to certification, declaration of performance, and lots of other issues. So there is ways to, even BIM in itself can help us all, I suppose, get around a lot of the issues with BCAR, which is a learning curve for all of us at the moment. And then you've got the facility management possibilities, which we are looking at. I think there's this, I'm not sure, I just want to, there might be a slide missing here, I'm not quite sure. But we're also looking at COBE, which is the other part of BIM, which is facilities management side of it, outside of what we were talking about and the QR codes. But we are trying to look at COBE as well and advance BIM more in that area. Our BIM plan, the inputs was to set the goals, which we've done. Coordination, subcontractor input. Again, that's in a lot got to do, as I mentioned, with structural steel. but not alone structural steel, M&E and others. We, as much as possible, try to get our subcontractors to design under BIM, especially M&E. The BIM managers and engineers, and then training. The process and tools for that then is Rivet, obviously. Navisworks is the clash detection. Navisworks Freedom, again, is the app that we mentioned for the tablets. Telca BIM site, I think that's got to do with robotic total stations, if I'm not wrong. Trimble Business Centre, high-spec laptops, projectors, tablets, smartphones, and the robotic total stations. And then the outcomes of that is you've got the visualization, which is what I mentioned, which is great for site managers. The site logistics, which is absolutely essential and saves an awful lot on cost and time. Bidding and tendering, certainly it will give you an advantage and a competitive advantage. Marketing, I would have to say, we go to meetings with private clients where we would have tendered a project and they might be considering 2 to 3 contractors. You have to go and sell yourself, and that's what we do. And that's the marketing side of it. We go and sell ourselves in relation to what we can offer our clients and in relation to them. RFI and submittals, again, going back to UCC as just an example, there's many others. It does increase the amount of RFIs that are issued at an early stage to resolve issues on site. Construction sequencing, that's the 4D, prefabrication off-site, clash detection, that's the Navisworks in relation to M&E, structural engineers and architects. The whole model, bring Navisworks and find out where the clashes are. Quantities and material takeoff, again, important. And complete virtual building, as-built models, quality control, and then, again, the facilities management. And again, the key factors for business execution, or BIM execution, is early engagement and a collaborative mindset. And I think that was mentioned again to Martin. At what stage does the contractor get involved in it? All Clancy projects are design and build. All Clancy design and build projects will be designed using BIM. So any project that we get involved in and we put a design team together, a prerequisite to be part of that team is you must design in BIM, including M&E. Not particularly picking M&E as a problem, but M&E were the slowest to come on board when it came to BIM. But in fairness, even since March, we've seen a huge difference in that. A lot of M&E consultants are now using BIM. M&E coordination, engagement of BIM capabilities of subcontractors and BIM specialist groups. Again, obviously, the factors is hardware and software and training, which is a cost, and hopefully the government, through some vehicle, will support contractors and indeed design teams on that. Technology to enhance information exchange, and again, iPads, Dropbox, and AutoCAD 360. And I know I have only about a minute left, have I, Suzanne? But industry implementation issues, early stage of BIM implementation, which it still is in Ireland, I must say, should be driven by design teams. Not necessarily saying that, but at the moment I think it's been driven by contractors. M&E buy-in is required now. I think that's actually improved since March at least. Need for change in attitudes, access to tender stage models. And again, I just briefly touch on this, and I'm aware there's some people in the room involved in this project. So I'm not going to go into great detail. But in March, I spoke about a project that was going to be one of the first in the country, which was the UHL project down in Limerick and the University Hospital of Limerick, which is a joint venture between UL and the HSE. A project just about to go out to tender. But back in March, I was of the understanding that project, the model was going to be the first ever going to be given to the contractors at tender stage, the full model. And really that's where the UK is going. But the HSE in the Midwest were following that, and they were trying to get this particular project in University Hospital Limerick out to tender with the full model. But I think, unfortunately, that's not happening now from what I hear, which is a pity. The model it has been designed under BIM, I'm aware of. It's currently going to go out to tender in the next couple of weeks. But for whatever reasons, the model is not going to be given to the contractors. And, you know, it's a pity, because at the end of the day, if the model was given to all the contractors, and I know whether there are legal issues or otherwise, I'm not sure what the issues are, the contractors then are all pricing the very same thing. Now, they're not going to be, and they'll all take different views on different issues. So, but anyway, hopefully it'll move along. Need for industry-wide standards and collaboration. And then, just a comment on there, how beneficial is BIM on projects below 5 million? I don't know. This is the last slide anyway. Conclusion then is improve our chance of success for bidding for work, and I will have to say it has done that. Increased productivity, greater cost certainty, and improved overall planning, and I will say it has done that. Reduced wastes, less changes and greater design certainty, and it also has done that. UCC is a particular example of that. Greater level of client satisfaction, haven't got there yet, but hopefully I could come back here maybe if there's a talk next year sometime and say that I can say it has done that, but I certainly think it will. Implementation of BIM requires careful planning, and the followings are essential. Leadership and collaboration, BIM execution plan, and software and hardware. And I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. Thanks very much.